I've been checking out leetcode YouTube videos a lot lately, and I've noticed that there's a lot of people posting videos showing off themselves solving 1,500 problems or doing something crazy like doing nothing but studying leetcode all day. And I think there's a much more efficient way that you can go about getting better at leetcode. And so in this video, what I want to do is convey my own experience. I've been doing this since around 2017. And I want to tell you the 3 things that you need to be doing to get better at leetcode. When I first started doing leetcode problems, I think I had the same approach as just about everyone else. I would just do a couple problems a day. If I got it wrong, maybe I would attempt it again the next day. And I would try to really understand the solution. And I was just trying to go through as many problems as I could. And I might go 3 weeks and then take a long period off and then start up again. And I did this for years, and then this really frustrating thing started happening. I would go to save the file name using the name of the leetcode question, and my editor would tell me that the file already existed. And so I knew that I had already solved it. And then I would attempt the problem and I wouldn't be able to solve it. And I would look back at my old solution and I realized that at the very least I wasn't getting any better, or in the worst case interpretation, I guess I would actually be getting worse, because I would sometimes see that I had already solved it and it looked like I'd done pretty well. And that's really not what you want. If you're going to be investing this much time into something, you don't want to just forget it right away. So I decided what I was going to do is I was going to pick 30 problems that I thought had the most coverage over the different topics that I needed to know, and I was just going to drill them over and over again. I was just going to work through them in a loop. And I did this, and a kind of strange thing started to happen, which is, at first my solutions, when I would compare them to the reference solution, would be fairly different. But as I just kept doing them, I ended up eventually basically reproducing the exact solution line by line. And this was really unexpected to me. I didn't see that one coming, because I wasn't trying to memorize the solution this way, but it just kind of happened naturally. And I think the reason it happened is because I just kind of got better at reasoning through these questions. And when you really have a good understanding before you start coding of where you're going, you end up just like having the most refined solution possible. And that's really a skill that you need to get good at if you want to get good at leetcode. You want to have 2 things. You want to be able to think ahead in your mind about how you want the code to work when you're done. And then once you have that in your mind, then you code it up. You don't just start like spewing out keystrokes and hope it works out for the best. So that's really a skill that you need to develop. So for step 1, for the one thing you need to be doing is just pick like 30 problems that have good coverage and just drill them over and over again. This is going to be your foundation for basically everything. The next thing you need to be doing, and this should be fairly obvious, is you still need to be attempting new problems. You still need to be able to assess a new problem, come up with a solution, check whether it's right without actually running it, just by thinking it through, and develop those types of skills. And another thing you can do is whenever you come across a new idea in a problem, you can then incorporate that back into your core 30, because as you review those 30 problems over and over again, eventually you're not going to have to be, you're not going to have to look at it that often. So what you can do is just keep adding new problems in, and that's what I do. I have an Anki deck with like 200 cards now, with just different problems, and I don't actually attempt the problem so much when I review the cards. I just kind of think through what the solutions would be, or what little trick there is to solving it, and that can help a lot. And something to keep in mind when you're doing these new problems is that it doesn't really matter so much whether you're getting them right or wrong. I mean, obviously there's some amount of value in getting a question right, but it's really just about the practice. And especially with a lot of these problems on leetcode, sometimes the solution's like an algorithm that was invented by like a famous computer scientist in the 1980s. I don't think you should be beating yourself up over not being able to come up with that in like 5 minutes. It's just not realistic. So don't beat yourself up. I think that's something to keep in mind. And the last thing you need to do is something that I learned from the chess community. And it comes from a book called The Woodpecker Method, where the idea of this book is that you're supposed to solve really difficult problems, like problems that are just outside of your comfort zone, but problems that once you know the solution, or you're shown the solution, that you're able to understand it. And there's actually a lot of value in this, I think, because what happens is when you attempt this really hard problem, it usually composes down into smaller problems, and then when you go to solve it, you have to verify that what you've memorized is actually a viable solution to the problem. And so, like in the chess world, a lot of people thought that this was kind of almost like overfitting like a machine learning model, where you're just memorizing kind of arbitrary features of these really hard problems, and that it wouldn't generalize. But in practice, what people have found is that it's actually a really good method. And so applying the same thing to chess, or applying the same thing to LeetCode, I think actually works really well. Like there's this problem, Alien Dictionary, where it basically breaks down into a topological sort, which is a LeetCode medium. And then what actually makes it a hard problem is just the fact that you have to be able to recognize that and do some pre-processing on some of the inputs to set it up. And so that type of thing can be really valuable. So this is almost like in step 1, you have 30 problems that are kind of the foundation, and you memorize them. What you do for step 3 is you just pick really difficult problems and memorize them, and just keep repeating them. So you do the same thing, but with really hard problems. And I think this is a really important thing, and probably the most important thing when it comes to improving, because you have to be kind of stretching your mind in order to actually improve. So in summary, there's 3 things you need to be doing. 1, you're going to need your foundational problems. You want those to be problems that you can probably get right, but you're really not that confident with in like an interview setting, and you just want to drill those. You want about 30 of them. Then step 2, you're going to need to keep doing new problems and incorporating them into your list of problems that you know how to solve and that you review at some interval. And the third thing, the woodpecker method, you want to be looking at really hard problems and doing the same space repetition type thing as with step 1, but with these really hard problems. And I'm pretty sure if you do this, you're going to get a lot better. So let me know in the comments if this actually works for you, and like and subscribe.